In this commit, I'm going to take this aka Robin piece of text and I'm going to change it into a slightly different color. To do that, I'm going to first wrap this in a different element. This sub element, that stands for subtext. And you can see it does what subtext usually does, which is make text go a little bit underneath the other text around it. But in this case, I'm going to have it do something slightly different. So I'm going to take an h1 and I'm going to say h1 sub. Whoops, h1 sub. There we go. So this is going to select every sub element that's inside an h1 element. If I did body h1 sub, it would say select every sub that is inside an h1 that is inside the body. You sort of have to read it right to left, which is a little bit weird and pretty different from everything else in CSS, which is usually left to right. But when you have spaces in between things, try reading it right to left. Okay, so I'm going to select it and I'm going to change the color to AAA. So that's sort of a light gray. There we go. I'm also going to change how it's vertically aligned relative to the text around it. I'm going to say vertical align baseline. So this is saying that it should be aligned really just with the text around it. There are a couple other vertical alignments that you could do, like vertical alignment top. That actually doesn't really seem to be doing anything right now. So I'll just stick with baseline and just go with that. There are other situations in which the vertical alignment would be more pronounced. So if I make this text really small, you can see it's still aligned to the base of the text around it. If I were to do top, now it's, well, sort of trying to be aligned to the top of the text around it. I could do middle, which tries to align it sort of to the middle of the text around it. Frankly, I'm not entirely sure why middle and top don't actually go to the middle and the top of the text around it, but that's vertical align for you. It never really does what you think it will. There's that. I'm also going to put parentheses around that aka Robin. Now, the easy way of doing that would be just putting parentheses in here, but I'm going to do it with CSS because maybe I'm going to have other subtexts in the future and I'm going to want to have parentheses around those. And I don't want to have to just go through and manually type in parentheses all the time. I'm going to do h1 sub again, and then I'm going to add before content parenthesis. And then we can see that adds a parenthesis. This is called a pseudo element. It's a way of not creating an actual HTML element, but putting a little bit of content before another element. There are two different pseudo elements you can use, before and, as you may have guessed, after. So I'll do the same thing right here. The cool thing about this is that you can like change their color and everything if you want to, and it just changed the color for that little thing right before the other text, this little pseudo element. I'm not going to do that here, but pseudo elements are a very handy thing to take note of. Okay, there we go. So that looks pretty nice. I'm going to make another commit. I'll say styled the aka Robin, and then I'll push that up to GitHub. And just so I can admire my work, I'm going to push it up to GitHub Pages as well so I can see it really online. And there it is. Looks pretty good.